The death of a Houston social media influencer, 26-year-old Alexis Sharkey's body was found Saturday on Houston's west side in the energy corridor.
And her mother is convinced this is no accident.
We are wrecked. We are completely wrecked.
A garbage truck driver called police Saturday morning after discovering a naked woman's body on the side of the road.
It plays back in my head. You know, it's been playing back in my head every day.
Her mother is convinced her daughter was murdered.
But when you know it was done on purpose, it just takes it a whole degree deeper.
On Saturday, the 28th of November, 26-year-old Instagram influencer Alexis Sharkey's naked body was discovered on the side of Interstate 10, roughly 17 miles west of downtown Houston. She had been missing for more than 24 hours, and the circumstances around her disappearance and death raised more questions that there were no answers for. Like, was it an accident? Was Alexis abducted, murdered, and left on the side of the road? And if so, who could be responsible? Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, we're going to be exploring the disappearance and death of Alexis Sharkey. She was a fashion and beauty influencer from Houston, Texas. So for the latest updates on this case, make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications, because this case will be going on well into 2021. But with that being said, sit back, relax, grab a snack, because we're going to be going through the facts, the speculation, and the controversy surrounding this super public death. Now, Alexis Sharkey was a 26-year-old hair and skin consultant from Houston, Texas. And prior to her death, things were really looking good for Alexis. Along with her 20,000 followers on Instagram and her reach of over 50,000 users on TikTok, Alexis had very recently partnered with Monat, an MLM that uses affiliates to sell beauty products in return for a commission. But according to Alexis's sister, she hated people labeling her as an influencer and instead preferred to use the term mentor on her own Instagram page. However, the company that Alexis was working for was quickly approaching $1 billion in revenue with a customer base of over 2 million people. And with their profits quickly increasing, Monat had recently come under fire for being an unashamed pyramid scheme alongside claims its products were causing hair loss, skin irritation, and a plethora of other health issues. And this resulted in a slew of lawsuits stretching back to as early as 2015. And in fact, in September 2020, Monat signed an agreement with the Florida Attorney General promising to refund $82,782 to customers who experienced adverse effects. And you know, it's unclear as to how much Alexis was actually earning from her partnership with Monat, but she did post a picture to her Instagram page back in 2014 holding an oversized $10,000 check she was awarded as a part of Monat's Dream Bigger promotion. The check displayed Alexis's maiden name of Robinault, which she would keep until December 2019 when she would marry her future husband, Tom Sharkey. Alexis met 49-year-old Tom in Odessa, Texas, while they were both working in a restaurant called Twin Peaks. Alexis was going through a tough breakup with an ex-fiancé, and Tom was an available shoulder to cry on. The pair clicked almost immediately, getting engaged in June 2019 and marrying just 6 months later in December. And you know, when you think of a beauty and cosmetics influencer's wedding, you would assume that it would be grand, bold, and full of, glamour and over-the-top everything. However, surprisingly, Alexis and Tom opted for a low-key courthouse wedding, and the cost for these things can be as little as $50, as opposed to the thousands of dollars that people think that they need to spend on a typical marriage. Despite that though, the couple appeared very much in love. Tom sharing photos of his bride with the caption, "Never seen or felt such beauty, you are my world." And to Alexis's followers, the influencer had it all: a booming professional mentorship, a loving relationship, and the world at her feet. But beneath the surface, there were some worrying signs. Now, while the 23-year age gap worried some friends of Alexis's because she was 26 and he was 49, there were other concerning factors surrounding the 49-year-old bodybuilder. There was the matter of Tom's past. He'd been married before and had a long history of complaints of psychological and physical abuse. And according to 2008 court transcripts, he was accused of sending naked photos of his ex-wife to her mailbox to intimidate and humiliate her. And even at the court hearing, Tom's own family members testified against him and said that Tom has undergone a significant change to his mental and emotional condition, often threatening suicide to get his way in arguments and doing untold damage to the children in the process. Tom, however, maintains that he is no longer that person from his first marriage and has shown a determined outpouring of love on social media over his now deceased wife. This has been met with a barrage of death threats after news broke of his wife's death, and with many people following the case convinced that Tom is behind the tragedy. Now, the day before Alexis disappeared, she spent Thanksgiving with a friend instead of her own husband. Now, normally, when you're in a loving and healthy relationship, you celebrate the holiday with family or your husband if you don't have one. But recent marital tensions saw her choose to be with friend Tanya Ricardo for the night. And on that night, she'd confided to her friend that she was growing increasingly worried about her husband. Earlier, she had explained how on a trip to Marfa, Texas, last month, Tom had become violent, striking her several times during various arguments. And this was all coupled with very nasty text messages that Tom sent her, and Alexis showed all of this to her friends. She would often describe Tom as controlling, manipulative, and occasionally violent. But most concerning of all was Alexis recounting how, on many occasions, Tom had choked her to the point of unconsciousness. Blacking out, Alexis would later wake up on the bathroom floor, confused and terrified of how she got there and what happened while she was blacked out. So yeah, the tension in her marriage with Tom was taking its toll. Alexis told her friends that she had been having problems in the marriage and she was considering filing for a divorce. She mentioned that despite the fact that they were still living in the same apartment, they were practically separated and it was getting worse by the day. And this difficult period also manifested in her social media activity, with friends and followers noticing that in the weeks leading up to her death, her previously 4 times a day posting schedule started to become more spaced out and sporadic. However, after spending Thanksgiving with her friends, Alexis returned home. And unfortunately, that would be the last day that anyone would see her alive. Because on 6 p.m. on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, Alexis's friend Tanya called and she tried to organize movie plans with her. But when she called, the call went to voicemail, which was unusual for Alexis, who basically lived on her phone. And we all know how, influencers are. They're constantly, checking Instagram, checking the notifications, whether it be on Twitter, YouTube, etc. But yeah, it was then that Tanya opened Instagram to see if Alexis had been recently active. However, to Tanya's surprise, there hadn't been an update for over 12 hours. And it turns out that this was the biggest gap between posts since Alexis actually joined Instagram. So Tanya got the feeling that something was wrong. Tom, Alexis's husband, would later then tell the media that Alexis left their apartment on Friday night and he was concerned that she shouldn't be driving while under the influence. And he didn't bother to elaborate and give more specific details as to when, why, and how she left the apartment. But many people are already thinking that he's just trying to create an alibi for later by saying that she left the apartment drunk, so that he can have an excuse just in case the police start investigating him for this potential murder. Despite the circumstances though, when she hadn't been heard from in over 24 hours, Tom began reaching out to Sharkey's friends and family members, asking them if they had seen her. What I found strange though is that Tom never contacted the police over his wife's disappearance. And it was actually Tanya, her friend Tanya, who actually filled out a missing persons report after not hearing from her and noticing the length of her social media absence. And it's kind of funny how in this modern age with social media, if you have a friend who doesn't post for a certain amount of time, you start to get worried, that they might be dead. The next morning though, less than 24 hours after Alexis was reported missing, a garbage man who was, just going around the neighborhoods collecting garbage was driving along Red Hall Lane near Houston's North Elridge Parkway when he noticed a pair of legs sticking out of, some random bushes on the side of the road. And at first glance, the driver assumed that he had spotted a discarded mannequin and was slightly unnerved by the discovery. So he kept driving and opted to instead phone his boss and inform him of what he had just seen on the side of the road. Now, Supervisor John Richardson, who's like the boss of the garbage men in that area, went back to the scene with the garbage man who had spotted the mannequin. And when they went back to the area to investigate and they got closer, they quickly realized that they were not looking at a mannequin, and they were in fact looking at the naked, dead body of a young woman in her 20s. And after that, the pair immediately called 911 to report the body. Now, upon examination of Alexis's body, the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences could find no visible injuries or wounds on her body, nor could they determine a cause of death. And as I'm recording this, we're still waiting on the results of the autopsy and toxicology report. What I found peculiar though is that the morgue, the place that is holding Alexis's body, changed her official next of kin from her husband, Tom, to her parents, something that's only done when the next of kin is a person of interest in a criminal case. Lead homicide detective Ricardo Rivera has not yet ruled out foul play based on the fact that there was no attempt to hide or conceal the body. He stated that generally, when you find a dumped body with no injuries, it's the result of an overdose and a panicked decision by another party to discard the evidence. And now, while forensic and DNA specialists examine the scene for clues as to what happened, detectives on this case are anxiously waiting autopsy and pharmacology reports to see if drugs or foul play is the cause of Alexis's demise. And you know, as of right now, security footage from a local beauty salon named Jenry Kelly Cosmetics is currently being examined as the camera apparently faces Red Hall Lane, just yards from where Alexis's body was discovered. Now, despite the comments from Alexis's friends, Alexis's mother did not share the same concern for Tom. Granted, Alexis hadn't visited her mom for a year due to COVID restrictions, but she did make it clear that she wasn't aware of a filed divorce or any unhappiness in the marriage. However, Alexis's mom categorically believes her daughter was murdered, stating to the media that the manner in which her body was left, my child would never do that to herself. That doesn't even make sense. This is absolutely foul play. And Alexis's friends agree with Lauren Barreau, Lauren, the same Lauren that she spent the Thanksgiving with, when Lauren went on record to say that, I'm gonna be honest, she confided in me about how worried she was for her safety when we went to Marfa, Texas almost a month ago. We were sitting down at dinner and she lost it. We walked back to our hotel room and she confided in me quite a few things. And I looked at her and thought, she's petrified. This girl is scared for her life. And another friend of Alexis's, Kendra Martin, was interviewed by the Daily Beast and said she had mentioned being separated even though they were still living in the same apartment. I actually pulled her aside 2 weeks ago to let her know I'm here for her and that I know something is going on because her demeanor had changed over the last month. Tom, on the other hand, did not immediately respond to a request for comment, and when he finally did speak to ABC 13, he rejected claims of an unhappy marriage and the rumors of an impending divorce. And if anything, he has spent the days since her death gushing about their love and shutting down any accusations or suspicions regarding his involvement. And in response to the constant death threats and abuse he's received since Alexis's death, Tom posted this message on his Instagram. I just wanted to say this. While some of you were posting on social media helping us locate my world, and we appreciate all your help, love, and support, others were wasting time talking about other things, basically crap. And if my wife would have seen this, she would have been disappointed in your actions. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. I have been assisting the deputies in making phone calls to find out what happened to my wife. Next time, stop and think and realize you don't know it all. And that statement was followed very quickly by a touching tribute to his late wife. He said, and I quote, "Baby, please give me strength. Do you remember when we talked and joked about getting old? And I said, that's the one thing you would never beat me at. And we laughed so hard because you're so competitive." But whatever the case may be, the truth itself will come out very soon. And despite our suspicions, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And that goes for her husband, that goes for her friends, or even her mother, anybody involved in this situation. But anyway, thanks for watching. This has been the case of Alexis Sharkey, the Instagram influencer found dead and naked on the side of the road. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, share the video with your friends and family, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. But with that being said, it's your guy Destiny, and I'll catch you guys and ladies in the next one.